Before I put the machine back together and mount your motor on it and start thinking about how we're going to mount your controller, I want to show you my very crude approximation of the type of cover that I want for it. So here is your controller. As you can see, there are the connectors in there, and what I want to be able to do is have some kind of a cover so that they just don't see those connectors, so that these you'll have single wires coming in like this. This, of course, will go to the controller box, so there will be a single wire for these two things. And by the way, as I said, I don't think I want to use the on-off switch. Rather than this, I want to use one of those other types of knobs like I showed you before, like this one, which has the on-off buttons on the bottom so that you click it on like this. But for now, I'm going to use the wiring that came with the machine, just so that I can test out the machine on its on the bracket. But this is the idea of how I want to have this. This is very, very crude, but this is the way I would like the system to look. Ultimately, you can see that this is a connector for the power, and you would plug the power cord into that like so. So here's a standard power cord that you would use with a computer, and I would want it so that I can just plug this in like this. And then we have to figure out how I'm going to mount this on the back of the milling machine, and it will have to go something like this, so that it will be pointing that way. And I'm thinking that perhaps this cover could have some kind of a rail here that could hook in to the holes that are already on the back of the milling machine. But that's something to be that I'm still working on and still trying to figure out, and we'll talk about that later. So here we are once again looking at the back of the milling machine after the old controller has been taken off. And once again, here is your controller with the cover that I envision on it. And what I envision is a system whereby, as I said, I can use the holes that already exist in the back of the milling machine to put some sort of a rail or something perhaps on there, and then this cover could have something that would extend along here that would hook into that rail, so that this whole unit could then clip onto the back of the milling machine, something like that. And this way people would have access from the side to the to be able to put this in. They would be able to see the readout from there, and it would fit perfectly, because this is about the same size as the original controller. So that's what I'm thinking. So now I have the milling machine reassembled with your motor on top, and the controller box is temporarily mounted on the wall. Ultimately it has to be mounted on the back of the machine like the other controller was. There's my proposed cover, and as you can see, I don't have a box for this. Eventually a box has to be provided for this, but at the moment I can just turn the machine on from here. eventually I want this control box, your motor speed controller, to be mounted on the back of the milling machine back here, like the other control box was, or the other controller. And I want a control box on the side that will have these controls. I will not probably have the on-off switch there. I will use one of those other kinds of switches that it has on-off and speed control here. You'll also notice that I don't have the switch for the forward and reverse, because on a milling machine you never run it in reverse. For a lathe it's different, but for a milling machine you never run it in reverse, so I will never have that switch there. And so the only thing that will go from here to the control box on the side will be the one of these with the ability to control the power with the extra leads. As you can see, I have the power cord connected this way, so I can disconnect the power like that, and that turns it off. I may well want to implement a small switch here so that you can turn the power to the entire unit off without having to pull this out, or without having to pull the plug.